I just want to say this word before I can't get it out next time. Krakoa. Because I know when I go to talk about this books, I'm going to fuck it up. So I just looked it up. It's Krakoa. So later on, when I go and say it and I get it all fucked up, you know I got it right here. I said that damn fucking word. It's Krakoa. Welcome back to LJ's Comic Room. My name is Jay, and I'm your host. First thing I'm going to ask you to do is, if you like what you're watching, you like what you see, please give me that little thumb up, subscribe, leave a comment. I'd love to be able to hear about what you're reading, what you're collecting these days. We have similar interests. We can have a conversation, you know. I leave a message, you leave a message, we go talk together. That'd be awesome. All right. First thing I'm going to do here is let's talk about some of the books. Now, if y'all watch my show, I'm a little late on my collection. I am poor. Very, very poor. So, that being said, I'm about 2 weeks behind, which is fine. So the first book I'm going to talk to you about is Doctor Strange, number 8. Jed MacKay, fucking phenomenal writer. If you're not reading any of Jed MacKay's stuff, go out, start from the very beginning. I'm sure that there's at least a second print of the first couple issues that are out there. Pick it up. Some of the best fucking Doctor Strange writings that are happening at this point in time. In this personal issue, I'm going to let you know it's Clea taking on General Strange, which means she has walked into the gates of hell to basically defend for her husband without him knowing it against basically the evil version of Doctor Strange. It's a phenomenal story, and you won't regret it. Pick it up. It's definitely one of those you'll sit there and go, holy shit, this is better than the fucking movies. And I absolutely love the Doctor Strange movies that are out there right now. But you can't get any better than this. Jed MacKay, phenomenal fucking writer. So please go out there and pick that issue right on up. Still not feeling the greatest. I'm just gonna let you know. Second issue I'm going to talk to you about here is Guardians of the Galaxy number 7. All right. Now, anyone who loves basically how MCU did the Guardians of the Galaxy will absolutely love this story. It's fun. It keeps you guessing where and what direction they're going to go to next. Phenomenal story. And right now, the things that they're doing with Grootfall, it's definitely one of the most creative ways to be able to take a team and basically make them think twice about the direction that they're headed. In this issue, personally, it's the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're dealing with Grootfall, and them trying to explain to Wiccan and Hawkling, one of my wife's favorite characters. Personally, I absolutely think they're a joy to read about. But one of my wife's favorite characters, and explain how Groot Space actually works, and what happens to the people that die in Groot Space, and are they really dead? So, like I said, it's one of those books you definitely should go pick up and invest a little time into. Now, this next story, I'm going to be honest with you. I've only read the very first issue. Awesome. But unfortunately, I get comic books from 2 different stores. And for some odd reason, I got the first issue from one store. Or the first 2 issues from one store. Which I received the first issue. But then I started getting the other issue. I don't know. I was tired. I was looking through it. I was going, oh, I have to get this. And I ended up going through the wrong fucking store. So I'm missing issue number 2. I have not read it. I basically have not read 2, so I haven't read 3. I haven't read 4. And this is issue number 4. Okay, the City of the Dead. I'm going to give you a little assignment. If you read the story, please do me a favor. You write the review and send it to me. Tell me how it is, because I'd love to be able to fucking get that answer soon, someday, one day. Eventually, when I get those comics and I build up enough for a box, I'll get those and we'll do the unboxing right here on the channel, just like we did before. But until then, do me a favor. Let me know how the story is if you're reading it. I've read the reviews. I heard it's good, but it'd be awesome to be able to get it from people that have actually read the story. So there you go. There's your assignment. All right. I want to see you on the channel next week, or in 2 weeks, maybe 3, whatever. But let me know how this is. All right. So I've been reading The Fall of X, and if you've been watching my stuff, I've been showing you issue by issue how you're supposed to be reading this, because it didn't really come out with the perfect, this is where you should go. Because if you're reading these, it's not follow next in this issue. It's Merry Christmas, try to figure it out. That's the worst thing about Marvel. Marvel does not like giving a direction. So you'll never know which one you should be reading, which is the best thing about what DC does. They always say at the end of the issue, you should be continuing in the next story blank. Marvel has not figured that one out, and dear God, I wish they would someday. But I will tell you, there is a site out there to be able to figure it out, and that's how I found out. Someone actually answered my prayers and said, hey, idiot, this is the way you should be reading this book, or reading this story. So, if you're following along, the next book you should be reading is X-Force 45. Best thing about this is, one, it's written by Benjamin Percy, who has done an awesome job with Ghost Rider, has done an awesome job with Wolverine, and now he's also doing Wolverine versus Predator. And I reviewed that last time, and I'm going to tell you right now, that was above and beyond what I could imagine. Bloody as fuck, cursing, swearing, sex, whatever. It just filled in everything that it should have been in that book. Well, guess what? I did not realize he also read this one, and I was trying to figure out why I enjoyed it so much. Fucking Benjamin Percy wrote this shit. This is basically, it's from the point of view of the Chronicler, okay? And the Chronicler has an amazing ability as a mute. Everything he writes comes true. So at this point in time, Colossus' brother has been telling him what he should and should not be writing. Well, he's got something else up his sleeve to be able to figure out how the fuck to get out of that situation. So this is definitely one of those books you should be reading to fill in what's happening with the Fall of X. So, if you've been watching the rest of my show, I feel like I'm just gonna be saying that over and over again. But if you're watching the rest of the shows, you can tell one of my favorite artists is Mr. Motherfucking George Perez. And this is a George Perez cover. I've said it before and I'll say it again. One of his favorite things to do is draw X-Men and the Teen Titans. And this is one of the ages. I'd say this is what, early 1980s version of the fucking best version of the X-Men right here. Awesome cover. Mr. George Perez. And the story starts out really good. It's basically, you follow Catherine Pride, and she's discovering what's going on with Scott Summers, and finding that he is actually still alive, and the state that he's actually in. You also find out why Reed Richards has such a qualm with Professor X, and what Professor X actually did to him, and why he's disgusted on how Professor X behaved. This is a great story. I'm going to say it again. I didn't look up who read this, because this is definitely one of those that. Oh, this is. Sorry, I do know who wrote this. This is X-Men, so this is Duggan. There has been a lot of bad things. If you look up Duggan's reviews of the X-Men, there's been a lot of hate. And I don't know where it comes from, but there's been a lot of hate for that writer. I'm going to tell you right now, fuck your reviews, because this is a great story. It was short, sweet, and simple, and down to the point. Beautiful, beautiful. It carries the story. This is definitely one of those you need to continue to read if you're reading the Fall of X. Plus, you get to watch Ben Grimm get his ass kicked. So that was pretty fucking cool. All right. Next thing I'm going to tell you right now, the next one you should be reading is Immortal X-Men 16. All right. Basically, you're following the story of Professor X on the island of Krakoa. Bam! I got it. Yes. Basically, you're following Professor X on the island of Krakoa, and him running and begging and making deals for his life to be spared. That and you get to discover that there is a major super mutant still alive, and that will be the second half of the story. So, this will get you interested. The Hounds of Hell, robot Wolverines, okay, and Apocalypse. Can't go wrong. All those things and more. If you read this, no, I'm sorry, this is feel like Jeopardy or something, Wheel of Fortune. But this is definitely a great story. I absolutely enjoyed it. I will say, this is probably one of the better reads that I've read from the Immortal X-Men. So pick it up, number 16. Apocalypse is on the cover. Fucking awesome. All right. Now, I said to you earlier about this certain book that I didn't see it so far fitting in, and it didn't. I mean, it didn't really mention anything about what's going on with the Fall of X. Well, the one thing is, when you're reading Al Ewing, he kind of lets things brew. You know, he tells a lot of backstory when he writes, and that's what he did for this story. X-Men Red, also number 16. Al Ewing, who I feel was the best space writer that you can find out there. And I actually believe he's the one that should be writing Alien. We'd probably have a 10,000th time better story than so far what we've gotten from those Alien stories. But Al Ewing finally starts bringing things together with a major reveal at the very end of the story, and how it ties things together. This is definitely an awesome story. You're basically following Storm and the Brotherhood, and they're fighting the four horsemen of Apocalypse, and there's your reveal. Apocalypse finally shows up, and it's just like Storm is badass, definitely in the story. It's one of those you should definitely pick up, even if you're not reading the Fall of X. Al Ewing has done an amazing job with this, so definitely pick it up. I actually regret not following the story from the beginning. If I would have known Al Ewing, if I would have been paying attention, because I just thought Al Ewing disappeared for a little bit, because that Venom is not that great. Unfortunately, he teams with Ram V, and I love Ram V for Swamp Thing, but he does not do a good Dylan. He really doesn't. Um, so I just stopped reading him, and I couldn't figure out where else he was until I started reading X-Men Red, and now he's Immortal Thor. All right, the last comic for the Fall X that I have that you'll be reading is Wolverine. All right, Wolverine number 38. Basically, you're following Steve Rogers and Wolverine, and you basically how they impact each other in the decisions that they make, depending on the stipulations. Because you got to remember, Cap is super good, and Wolverine will break every fucking rule that he possibly can to get whatever situation done the way he wants it to get it done, which is kill everything and ask questions later. Well, that's not Cap, but they have to work together, and they have to meet a middle ground. So this is definitely one of those books that it's kind of like good cop, bad cop, except you got a really, really bad cop. All right, and then you got Daddy Good Shoes over here. So. But it's a fun read. I absolutely loved it. It really hasn't told the story of the fall of, or hasn't followed along with the fall of X. And don't get me wrong, they mention some things. They mention Orchid. They talk about it, but they're really kind of just slowly bringing things around. But it's Benjamin Percy. He tells a great story. So I'm going to imply, if you're not reading Wolverine alone on your own, you definitely should pick it up. Because Benjamin Percy has done an awesome job with Wolverine. All right. Now, this next book I'm going to talk about. This next book I'm going to talk about has been awesome for me. Personally, I've loved ever since Chip has taken over for this character. And don't get me wrong, I've collected Batman for a little bit, but Chip has put together a great story, and there is some hatred for this story. They absolutely believe this is dumb. I've heard it called stupid. I've heard it called repetitive writing. I've heard it called like you can always know what's going on before you even read it, because that's how Chip writes. Which is weird, is because they praised the shit out of him when he was doing Daredevil. Now that he's taken over Batman, all of a sudden he is being poked at and told how bad of a writer he is. My thing is, fuck y'all. Batman 138 is fucking awesome. Alright? Basically, Batman had created a separate ego to be able to deal with what's going on with Catwoman, and how she's training these people to do all these different robberies, just to bring down the crime rate or the death rate on people. And she supposedly brought it down like 70% or whatever. And Batman just can't deal with that. He can't. And to know that his own family, other than Damian, is betraying him and telling Batman how good this really is for him, it's cracking him up. He's losing. Bruce is gone. It's just Batman, and Batman fucking kills people. Batman's nuts. Batman's returning back to that 1940s age where I'm about to watch him bring out a gun and just start shooting people. Because Batman's losing it. This is a fucking phenomenal story. So for everybody that's out there and it's definitely put it down, fuck you. Chip has done an amazing job. And guess what? At the end of the story, it tells you which book you should be reading next. Marvel. You know what you should be doing. Right here. Alright, the next two books I'm going to tell you about here. One I picked up for myself, and the other one I picked up for my wife. So, let me tell you about the one I picked up for my wife. This is Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Thor 158, basically the retell of of Thor. All right, beautiful artwork. If you look at that spine, looks amazing. Yes, the pages are a little yellow, and you can tell, you know, you got to think about it. It's early '60s Thor, so it's definitely Silver Age. There's going to be some defaults and defects with this book, but all in all, it's actually a pretty amazing book. I got it from Comics Connection for $75 altogether. Picked this up for my wife because she's a huge Super Thor fan. So I was like, hell, I love my wife, so I picked it up for her. You know. The second one I got for myself, though. All right, I'm a huge fan of this character. All right, I'm a huge fan of the writers that worked on this book. So let me just introduce this book to you. This is Marvel Superheroes number 12, featuring the very first appearance of Captain Marvel. Alright, now this is before the really cool suit. This is Stan motherfucking Lee writing this story. This is the very first appearance. From here, it moves on, eventually into the hands of Jim Starlin. But until that, it's gotta make a couple stops, including Roy Thomas, and then Jim Starlin. But let's say, started off with Mr. Stan Lee. Awesome character. Absolutely love this character, and I do love that they do still make stories, but they're not in the continuing storyline. It's basically stories of when he was alive. I think it's probably pretty much one of the only characters that are actually still dead and hasn't really come back at all. I mean, unless I'm wrong, and if I am, please, dear God, call me out. Say, hey, no, he came back in this issue, or he came back in this comic book, and he's going on strong. But from my knowledge, he's dead. These are all backstories that they keep telling of him, and telling of his kid and stuff like that. So I respect that they've left this character alone. I know that they did create other Captain Marvels to take his place, which I am completely fine with, because he had the perfect death. Eventually, if you get cancer, that's what happens. You die. And to have the respect of all the superheroes and villains, including Thanos, to me, that was like the icing on the cake. So that's my comic books, and that's what I have to show you. So from my family to your family, before I go, I want to say, one, thank you so much for tuning in. From the numbers that I read, that I saw, I actually, and I know this isn't super big on some of you guys, because I'm just a small little guy out of here in York, Pennsylvania, but I finally reached over 1,000 views. So I want to say thank you to everybody that's tuned in. I want to thank all the new viewers, the new subscribers that I've just recently got. I hope you guys enjoy the show. I hope the old subscribers still enjoy this show, and I want to tell you, everybody, that I appreciate you. So thank you so much for tuning in each week and watching my shows. The next thing I'm going to say here is, if you go to get an animal, please do your research. Doesn't matter what you're getting. If you're getting a cat, dog, billy goat, ferret, parrot, whatever the fuck that you're getting, always make sure you do your research, and always understand the animal that you're getting, because you never know what condition you're really picking them up in. Even if it's a puppy, you never know what could be wrong. Go down to your local shelter. Make sure that you at least check those animals out, because, dear God, they are looking for their forever home, and they are the most grateful animals that you'll ever get. So from my family to your family, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you guys next week.